Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show that covers all things marketing. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast gives you the latest marketing news, from what major businesses have planned for the coming year to the newest trends in advertising, from podcasts, digital and streaming, to the old standbys of radio, television, and billboards. Whether you're a marketing agent or a business trying to expand your brand, you've come to the right place. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast starts now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jakewish, and I am so excited for today's episode. Although I say that every time, I am always so excited for today's episode because I love recording these episodes, and I love doing this podcast, and I love hearing your guys' reaction. So if you want me to see your reaction or hear your reaction, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or on our YouTube channel, and you can message me on there, you can tweet me on there, and I will respond because I love talking to you guys, and I love hearing your feedback and input. Also, another thing you can do is write a review down below of what you think about this podcast, because I always read those, and that's usually where I take a lot of inspiration for the episodes. So you can always connect with me through those platforms because I'm always here to talk about marketing and to share your ideas or to maybe brainstorm with you. So always feel free to reach out. Now, today's episode is very hilariously titled, Oops, Did I Do That? Because we are going to be talking about common mistakes you might be making with your digital marketing. We're going to talk about ways you can fix it and ways you can maybe start to notice if you're making those mistakes, because maybe you're making them and you're just unaware that you are making them. So I'm going to show you all of that and more on today's podcast. But to start out today's podcast, let's talk about what is new in the marketing world. So the first story of today broke my heart, guys. I was so upset that this happened, mostly because I've talked about it on other podcasts already, of it being a big thing and a big deal. So it broke my heart a little bit when I found out that Disney Plus is putting the Lizzie McGuire reboot on hiatus until further notice. We have no idea what's going to happen with this show or if it's even going to happen anymore. And let me just take a second to express how upset I am about this from an entertainment standpoint, because it is just upsetting. But now, from a marketing perspective, we talked about on another episode of the podcast, how the Lizzie McGuire reboot has become Disney Plus's tent pole for the new year. Their whole 2020 commercial was based around it. They talked about it. They congratulated Hilary Duff on her wedding and then announced that the new episodes would be coming in 2020. So they were definitely betting on this show bringing people into their streaming service, and they were marketing it hard. I mean, guys, they got so many of the original cast to come back to film this show, and now there's not going to be a show probably. People don't know what's going to happen, so I can't be the only person who's left going, Disney, what's your next move? Now, here's the thing. I'm not concerned. Disney has this figured out. But you can't tell me that it wouldn't be a shock when all of this started to unfold. Like when the creator left the show, when the showrunner left the show, all the drama that's been circulating about it, it would definitely be a bit of a shock to the system and to Disney's plan for 2020 as to what they're going to do next. Lucky for us, Disney has put out an actual statement, because a lot of times with stuff like this, Disney does not react, or they don't react publicly, which can be really frustrating, especially to someone who maybe hosts a marketing podcast and likes to report on Disney Plus doing stuff. But they actually did respond to this story. So a Disney rep, unnamed, said, fans have a sentimental attachment to Lizzie McGuire and high expectations for the new series. After filming 2 episodes, we concluded that we need to move in a different creative direction and are putting a new lens on the show. So nowhere in there are they saying that it's done or that it's canceled, but it is getting put on hiatus. It will not be coming out in 2020. So people are upset. I'm upset. And I feel like right now Disney must be sort of caught in the wind, unsure of what to do next. And I think in the next couple of weeks, so I'll follow up on this story again, we're going to see Disney Plus pushing some of those shows like The Mandalorian maybe, or the High School Musical reboot might be getting pushed a little bit more. So we're definitely going to be, I think we're going to be seeing them market their other content to try to distract from the lack of content that will now be missed because of the Lizzie McGuire reboot getting shut down. So what do you think of the Lizzie McGuire reboot getting put on hiatus, and what do you think Disney will be doing next to sort of hide this whole scandal and sort of put it behind them? What do you think their next moves will be? Reach out through social media. I will tweet out later today a GIF of Lizzie McGuire, and I want you to retweet on there what you think is going to happen with the reboot and what you would do if you were a marketing agency for Disney. In other news, Oracle has hired a new chief of marketing, and they took them straight from Amazon's web services. So Ariel Kelman has joined the Oracle team as their chief marketing officer. And for those of you that don't know, Oracle is a corporation in America that is a multinational computer technology company, and its headquarters are in California. Probably won't be a big move, but people are pretty excited about this. So very exciting to see Oracle sort of changing their direction of how their marketing is going to go, and I'm excited to see what Ariel Kelman will be doing with the brand and if any changes will be made. So we will keep an eye out for that. Something that we don't have to keep an eye out for because it is always constantly pushed in our face in a good way is Starbucks and their marketing, and they have done it again before even releasing their holiday season drinks. They have released their Valentine's Day tumblers, mugs, ornaments, water bottles, coffee cups, like reusable coffee cups. They have released all of this Valentine's Day memorabilia without releasing a Valentine's Day flavored beverage. So it's only the start, but it is definitely Starbucks' way, I think, of showing us and telling us that, oh, right, remember, we control the holidays, not the seasons, not the day on the calendar. When we start selling Valentine's Day merchandise, pay attention because it's Valentine's Day. And this is really their first year that they've ever put out a whole collection for Valentine's Day. Normally you'll see one or two pink things, and there's definitely flavored drinks, but they really went all out this year, and I encourage you to take a walk to your local Starbucks. I live in Seattle, so there's one on every corner, so I don't have to walk that far. But take a walk to your local Starbucks and check out all of the new merchandise that they have put out because the marketing really is spectacular and just another example of how well Starbucks really does market to their audience and how they control the market that they're in. So what do you think of Starbucks sort of controlling the holiday season marketing? Do you think that it's realistic that they are able to make demands such as this, that, hey guys, it's Valentine's Day now, stop thinking about New Year's, stop thinking about Christmas, it's Valentine's Day? Or do you think this is something that might end up getting blown into their face because people aren't ready to celebrate Valentine's Day yet? And if there aren't any flavored drinks, why would we buy Valentine's Day merchandise? Also, something to consider here is that although people might think this merchandise is really cute and really pretty, not a lot of people invest in Valentine's Day merchandise because it really is only one day a year. It is not something like Christmas that feels like it's an entire month of celebrating. This is one day in February that people don't really pay attention to. So do you think a lot of people are actually going to buy the Valentine's Day merchandise? Let me know in the review down below, or again, reach out through social media. I'm going to take a walk to my local Starbucks and definitely snap a few shots of what I find to be the best in their holiday marketing. Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and take a short break on the podcast, but when we come back, we're going to start talking about some mistakes you might be making with your digital marketing, and we're going to talk about how you can fix them and how you can know if you're making them. That's going to be a really important key measure here. So definitely stay tuned for that because you are listening to the GSMC Marketing Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jakewish, and I'll be right back.
Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast covers everything tech. The hottest mobile phones, tablets, games. We review it, rate it, test it. Whether you're Microsoft or Apple, Android or iPhone, we'll give it to you black and white. The Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jakewish, and thank you for joining me today. Before the break, we were talking about what is new in the marketing world. We talked about Disney Plus putting the Lizzie McGuire reboot on hiatus and how they actually have come out with a statement for this, because normally Disney's very good about not really commenting on a situation unless they need to. But what I really wanted to hear from you guys is how you would handle the loss of something that was going to be your main marketing centerpiece for the year. Because Lizzie McGuire was going to be Disney Plus's tent pole for 2020. So let me know in the review down below, because I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts. We also talked about Oracle hiring a new chief of marketing straight from Amazon. And we talked about Starbucks handing out Valentine's Day merchandise. Obviously, they're not handing it out. You have to pay for it. But we talked about if it's really a good idea to have merchandise for Valentine's Day, since it is only one day a year and not a lot of people invest in having a pink mug or a pink tumbler that they're going to carry around all year. It's a good idea for a day, but those tumblers are normally $30 to $40. So, is it really worth it if you can only use it one day a year? Let me know your thoughts on all of those news stories in the review down below, or reach out through social media. Now that we are back from our break, I want to talk about 5 of the mistakes you might be making with your digital marketing, and we're going to talk about what they are, how to know if you're making the mistake, and how to fix it. So if you want to get a pen and paper out, do that now. I'll wait, or you can just pause me and I'll stop talking. It's the power of technology. I'm not really here talking to you, so I can wait while you get a pen and paper, because you might be making some of these mistakes, or you might be like, whew, I'm not doing that, thank goodness, but maybe I should check just to make sure I'm not. So the first mistake you might be making is not having a true idea or a clear idea of who your audience is online. So obviously I understand that you have done a lot of market research and you understand your general idea of who your audience is in person. You know the people that are coming into your store every day, but do you know who your audience is online? Because that might be different from the people who are coming into your store. So what a lot of people do when it comes to their digital marketing is that they sort of just make general ads, and that's really easy to do on Facebook and Google. So it's a super easy mistake to make, is just, okay, I sell products in Seattle, so I'm going to make an ad for everyone who lives in Seattle. But the truth is that not everyone in Seattle wants your product, and you might be losing valuable marketing dollars marketing to them rather than focusing in on the 200 people in Seattle that would love to buy your products and would buy your products every single day and make you lots of money. So definitely a huge thing is knowing who your audience is online versus knowing who your audience is offline, and knowing how to target them. Once you've figured out your audience, you can start asking yourself questions like, what kind of TV shows does my audience watch? What kind of food does my audience eat? What are they doing in their spare time? And with that information, you're able to create ads and create targeting that will really just be specifically for them and cut out all of that extra fat that is unneeded. The second mistake you might be making is not having a fully thought out plan for how your digital marketing is going to go. And I've talked about this a lot on the podcast, so forgive me if I'm a little frustrated if some of you have listened to the previous podcast and still don't have a plan, because it really is just the most important thing when it comes to your digital marketing or any of your marketing strategies, to really just be prepared for anything and have it all laid out somewhere that you can see it every day, that you can make edits to it if needed, and you can have a physical copy of it. I know that is such a weird thought to think that you need a physical copy of your digital marketing plan, but that really is the best way to stay organized and stay on top of stuff like this. So it is so important, and according to HubSpot, only 32% of B2B marketers say they have a document content of their marketing strategy. That is so incredibly low, considering that digital marketing is something that needs to be planned out and it needs to be thought out, because there is so much of it in the world right now. Everybody has an Instagram account. Everybody has a Facebook account. So if you want any luck at all of being successful in this world, you need to have a plan, and that plan needs to be ironclad, or not ironclad, but it needs to be thought out, and it needs to be useful, and it needs to be honored in the way that, yes, plans can change, and yes, things are going to change and alter with it, because digital marketing can change at any moment, but you do need to have everyone on your team agree that this plan is what you're going to do. So if you haven't already, go draw out your plan right now, pause the podcast, or actually, you know what, listen to the end of the podcast, because we're talking about other mistakes, so I don't want you to have to pause, fix. So at the end of this podcast, though, definitely take some time to reflect on your marketing plan and really decide how you and your team are going to go forward over the next year. It doesn't have to be a full year plan, but you should have an idea of how you want to end 2020, even if that's just a dollar amount, even if that's just a follower count. You need to know what your main goal is for 2020, and you need to have a plan of how you're going to get there. The next mistake you might be making is very similar, and it is posting on social media without an end goal. You are creating content for the sake of content. So I see a lot of companies do this. You know, I recommend to them that they post every single day, because you should be posting every single day. That's just a fact. But, you know, they post every single day, but they post things that don't matter to the company, aren't on brand with the company, and kind of just distract from what they're actually trying to use the platform for. Social media can be so helpful, can be so useful, but can also just be like a pile of hot garbage. So if you want to be the flower sticking out of the dump, then you need to have a plan and a reason for why you're there. So again, when creating your plan, create a social media plan and make sure that in your social media plan you include a purpose as to why you're posting that. And maybe the post is just for engagement. You want to see what your audience is doing with their weekend, and that's fine. But you need to know why you're posting that, for that your audience actually wants to engage with it. So make sure you're doing that. And it's the same thing as planning. If you have thought things through, if you have thought ahead, this isn't going to be a problem for you. But if you're posting things for just the sake of posting things, it's useless and your audience isn't going to engage with it. Which brings me on to my next one, is that you need to start engaging on social media. It's not enough to just post a photo and then forget about it on Instagram. If someone comments on your photo, even if they just put an emoji of a heart because they think it's really cool, comment back, because your audience wants to be heard and they want to know that there is a person on the end of all of this, and that it isn't just a never-ending stream of consciousness from a bot. They want to know that there's a real person there who is really going to respond to what they're saying and what they're commenting. And if you do it, they're going to want to do it more, and they're going to want to keep engaging with you. So definitely make sure that even if you're just liking the comment, you're always engaging on your social media, because that is incredibly important when it comes to digital marketing. So the next thing is that you're not giving your marketing strategies enough time to produce real results. So a lot of people, and I used to work for a company that did do this, they post an ad and then it doesn't work within the hour or it doesn't work within 24 hours. So it gets shut down, it's wasting too much money, and it's not working. The truth is that one, Facebook ads take about 24 hours to really go through the cycle and come out the other end. So don't look at your Facebook ad an hour after you've posted it because there won't be real results on there. The best thing to do is to check on them every day just to make sure no one's commenting rude or crude things on there and that something horribly wrong hasn't happened in the system, but only report on them on a weekly basis. So every Monday you go into the office and you check on how they did for the entire week that just passed, Monday to Monday reporting. This way you're giving your marketing strategies enough time to really grow and develop and actually produce the type of results you're looking for rather than just hoping something sticks. You're not looking for a flash in the pan here, guys. You're looking for something that's really going to work long term. So next time that you're looking at your reporting and you're looking at what's gone wrong, don't just look at the low numbers. Make sure you're really taking a moment to understand how long all of those ads have been running and how much money is actually going into them, because turns out we're going to talk about this more after the break here, but your return on investment is so important when considering your marketing strategies and how you're going to produce ads, because maybe an ad is doing really well, but you're not actually getting any people to buy products from you. They're just filling out the ad form. So when you're measuring your ads, make sure you always take a look at how long they've been running. That way they have enough time to actually develop. Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and take another short break from the podcast, but when we come back, we are going to share 5 more things you might be doing that are ruining your social media and ruining your digital marketing. So stay tuned for that, because you are listening to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jakewish, and I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jakewish, and before the break, we covered 5 mistakes you might be making with your digital marketing. We talked about how to spot them, how to fix them, and really we just talked about why they're a mistake and how important it is to correct them. So now that we are back from our break, we're going to talk about 5 more very critical and very crucial aspects of digital marketing that you might be making these mistakes or you might be forgetting to do these things. So we're going to make sure that you're all good to go before leaving this podcast. As always, if you have questions, if you have concerns about anything I talked about on today's podcast, please reach out through social media and be like, hey, I'm totally making mistake number 7. How can I fix that? I would be glad to help, so feel free to reach out through our Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or write in the review down below. All right, so let's get into the next 5. The first one is not having fun with your content. Guys, this is something that I think as marketers we forget, is that we have a fun job. Everyone in the office knows it. The people in accounting definitely know it. Marketing is where the fun and the creative stuff gets to happen. And yes, we absolutely take our job so incredibly serious, and it is an important aspect. It isn't always just fun and games. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be enjoying it. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be having fun with it. So make sure the products you're actually creating are things you yourself would want to engage with. Don't just post a photo on social media because you think your audience will find it funny. Make sure you think it's funny too, because at the end of the day, marketing is about human experience, and you're the only human you can test on right now. So make sure you're enjoying your content and make sure you're having fun with it, because without that, what's the point? That being said, though, the second mistake a lot of people make is not staying on track with your brand. Your brand has a set of guidelines for a reason, so follow them. I see so many companies post things that don't have the same font as everything else, or a different shade of red than the red they chose. And it just always looks a little unprofessional and a little unclean, and just, it just never looks quite right. It's like you always know something's off when they post stuff like that. So make sure you're always keeping track and staying on brand. And if you're ever unsure of that, that is the time to ask someone who's maybe above you or has been around the company for a lot longer, because they might have a better understanding of what the brand really is. All right, the third mistake you might be making is very similar to when I pointed out the mistake of maybe you're not giving your ads enough time to actually grow and flourish and develop the results you're looking for. And by that I mean the third mistake you might be making is not understanding what it means to have a positive result come from an ad. We talk a lot about, looking at your data and reflecting on your data, but if you actually don't understand the numbers on the screen, they won't mean anything to you. So it's not enough to just report on it and be like, well, those numbers are big, the money's low, good to go. No, take time and actually reflect on your data and actually try to understand what all of it means. Because yes, sometimes data can be a little dry. And yes, sometimes it can totally frustrate us and boggle our minds, but it's so important when it comes to marketing. It really is. So take time out of your day to Google it, to watch a YouTube video. I recorded a whole podcast where I talk about data analytics. Reach out and get help if you need help understanding your data, because data is so important, and it can be a huge mistake you're making, and it could be a huge, just blind spot if you don't understand it. So take time out of your day, spend an hour every day for the next week, really reflecting and understanding your data and what it all means. Because at the end of the day, it's not that hard to understand it. You just need to take the time. If you're looking for helpful advice other than just, the podcast I recorded, definitely check out Sprout Social and Google Analytics. Not only do they give you your analytics, they also help explain what it all means, which can be super, super helpful in the world of marketing. The next mistake you might be making is failing to actually run tests on your ads. You could be doing something as simple as, we've ran this Facebook ad a bunch in the past with this same photo. I'll just do it again and it will work again. And then it doesn't work and you're confused. Why? It's because you didn't test it. Testing is so incredibly important, because maybe the ad worked in August, but it's not going to work in December because things change in those months. Your audience may have changed in those months. The product may have changed in those months. So make sure you're always testing anything you put into your marketing, because it is so incredibly important to understand what your audience wants and what your audience is looking for right here and right now, which can be an important part in creating your plan for the next year, is doing one general test of what your audience has liked in the past and what you think they're going to like in the future. That way you're able to get a more clear idea of what it all means and what you should be doing in the new year. The last mistake you might be making is that you might be jumping on every hot new trend that comes your way. And oh my goodness, if you're doing this, don't feel bad. Don't get upset. Don't go and delete all of the ice bucket challenges you did, because it can be totally helpful to jump on trends that are happening right now. The internet loves it when people interact with everything as a big group. People respond to that. The problem is, and it's a problem we've been talking a lot in this podcast specifically, is if it doesn't match your brand and you truly don't believe in it, then why are you doing it? It doesn't make sense anymore for us just to do things for the sake of posting it. Make sure you actually believe in the trend and that the trend actually works with your content before you go and spend a bunch of money and a bunch of time just trying to keep up with the kids. Okay, everyone, that is it for today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed recording it. And if you enjoyed listening to my recording, make sure you subscribe to this podcast and follow us on social media for more updates about the show. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the GSMC Marketing News Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to any podcast app and you'll find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news, you'll find it all on the GSMC Podcast Network. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.